Good
All right.
afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to this session. It's called Online Statewide Career Pathway Classes. My name is Carly Voschel. I will be facilitating this session, but I am not the featured speakers. We have a great panel of four. Some of them are coordinators, some of them are instructors, and they are the true experts on these online statewide classes. And we're going to have a quick introduction from them and hear about their classes in this session today. So I want to start out with a quick kind of poll question, and you're going to put your answer in the chat. I'm curious to know in this group, in this meeting, how familiar are you with online statewide classes? And you're going to answer with a number in the chat, 1, 2, or 3. You're going to answer 1 if you're here to learn the basics. Maybe this is new to you. You're going to answer 2 if you're somewhat familiar, but you're here to learn what's new. And you're going to answer 3 if you are very familiar with the classes and you've even referred students. So I'm just going to take a look at the chat and see where we're at. It's great to see a mix of numbers on here, but it also just kind of helps us know where we're at with our audience so that we can customize this a little bit. Thank you for your responses. So here is a general roadmap of where we're going this afternoon. I'm going to talk through a very brief history, some information about contact hours, benefits and challenges related to online statewide classes, and I'll give you a resource to learn a little bit more. And then we're going to hear from the panelists about these 5 classes, and we'll get to dive into some of the specific details related to student eligibility, what are the expectations and some of the supports that exist for students in online statewide classes. And then I'm hoping that we can share a little bit about what could be the next step. How could you share this information? Who should know about it? Students and staff. And we'll try to do a quick Q&A after each of the presentations, but then we should have a few minutes at the end as well. So we're going to get through a lot today. So this slide is just talking through some of the basics about online statewide classes. It's kind of surprising because it feels like it's something that's very new, but fiscal year 25 is actually the 3rd year that we've been running online statewide career pathway classes in Minnesota. 3 years, it's gone by very quickly. The application for applying to be an online statewide class is aligned with the regional transition application. And if you're not familiar with the time frame for that, the application usually comes out late winter, early spring, and actually the due date was, I think, April 19th this year, same as our regional transition plan. So that's the time when you can submit and say, hey, we want to do an online statewide class. And this year there were 5 of them that were approved. In terms of contact hours, this is probably the biggest kind of question mark or unknown for people when they're just learning about these online statewide classes. So if at your ABE program, you send, 3 students to an online statewide class, so you're referring them and they're students that you already have an assessment, maybe they're working on another class, a recent GED grad or something like that, you are considered the home program. And that program gets to keep or retain 100% of the contact hours. So in a sense, you're not losing any of those contact hours when you refer students to online statewide classes. It's not a 50-50 split. All of the contact hours stay with the home ABE program. And that's probably one of the most important pieces to learn about, how to interact with these online statewide programs is there really is a benefit contact hours wise for the referring program. And if we think about benefits and challenges for students and teachers working with students on this, I've got a short list. Obviously, there's more benefits and challenges, But one of the great things that it does is it gives access to career pathway classes to students that might not have access. I'm thinking about students that live in a rural area, or maybe they have a local adult education program that doesn't have a PCA program or a CDL program or a technology program, but through online statewide classes, they're able to enroll in a class and they can join from wherever they live in Minnesota. There are also challenges related to staffing right now. Chances are at your program, you're trying to hire teachers to teach GED and high school equivalency in English, and it's even harder sometimes to find teachers to work on career pathway classes because there is a little bit level of speciality there. And a lot of those teaching positions are just hard to fill. So maybe you want to be able to do one of these programs at your site, but you just don't have the staffing to accommodate that. You can refer students from your ABE program to an online statewide class, and they can take part in that class. They can have a teacher support them, and they can work with a cohort. But obviously, there are some drawbacks related to online statewide classes. It doesn't solve every challenge we have in ABE. And I've listed a couple here. The different programs might require different types of technology and even the tech navigation skills needed. Like I can watch certain things on my phone, but if I'm going to do a course, an education program, a phone might not cut it. Certain types of tablets or even like a Chromebook might not be the appropriate technology for the class. And students have trouble sometimes getting a hold of technology like that. They might need to go to a library, a workforce center, your ABE computer lab to access technology, or even Wi-Fi. But also when your student is learning from home or learning from afar, there are also just kind of these independent learning skills, these distance learning skills that can be a challenge for some folks, especially if this is kind of a new experience. You have to know when you're being challenged in a not good way. Like if you're totally stuck, you have to know that I've got to reach out and ask my teacher for help. You have to have some of those skills in order to persist in an online statewide class. And I'm just wondering if there are any questions in the chat. I don't see any, so we can keep going. So I'm so happy that our 4 panelists were all available to talk to you during Summer Institute. Here are the 5 classes we have this year for online statewide. We have MOS, Paraprofessional, TEAS Prep, CDL, and PCA. I really tried to get as many acronyms as I could here, okay? These are the 5 classes that we're going to hear about from either an instructor or a coordinator. And first up is Susan with the MOS program.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here today to tell you about our MOS program. So the Microsoft Office Specialist program is an industry recognized credential. Microsoft generates the objectives, a company called Certiport delivers the testing, and at the end of the program, if our students pass their certification exam, they will have an industry recognized credential with a badge that they can put on their LinkedIn, on their resume, in their email signature, etc. So it is a really powerful tool that gets students from having separated from a previous job, or perhaps they don't have a lot of work experience yet. It really lets them set themselves apart in a job interview because upwards of 90% of job interview or job postings will reference Microsoft skills by name. And so being able to point to a credential is really important. So in terms of what it takes to get into our program, we ask that our students with the NRS level targets, we're looking for low intermediate basic education. So ABE level 3, all subjects. This translates into a score of the 217 to 227 range on goals, a life and work of 221 plus, or a TABE grade 5 equivalent. So we're looking at about the 5th grade level for entry into the program. In terms of our class supports, we have Zoom support available to our students 5 days a week during business hours, Monday through Thursday, and then Friday mornings. So even though this is an independent study, our students do have access to a teacher basically 5 days a week. In terms of other class supports, we do have our students do project work, and their fellow students are responsible for doing peer reviews. So at 2 or 3 different points in our Word, PowerPoint, or Excel curriculums, students will pause, they'll do a project before they turn that project into me so I can see how these new skills are taking for them. They have a fellow student review it and provide feedback, which gives us that really powerful experience in both giving and receiving professional feedback. And then we do offer our testing via Certiport. I think I mentioned them. Weekly, there are a few, at least 1 to 2 opportunities to do a remote test. In terms of our online delivery platform, we use Canvas for our learner management system integrated with a curriculum resource called Gmetrics. Some of you may be familiar with Gmetrics. But for our all school communications, for our support, for our student interactions, we really lean into Zoom. Zoom is our tool. For student expectations, the big one that we tell them right out of the gate is we are looking at 10 hours a week from them. If they can't squeeze 10 hours at a bare minimum out of their life for this program, it's not going to be an effective fit for them. So 10 plus hours per week. We ask for them to attend a weekly learning circle, which is a 45-minute to 1 hour large group meeting with students across all of our courses where there is a little accountability tool. We call it doing a student stand-up. They come in and they tell us what they got done last week, what they're looking to get done this coming week, and if there's anything they need our help with. If this 10-hour per week and or the weekly learning circle expectation aren't met, we really do expect that they will check in with the teacher, be able to communicate with us and let us know if there's anything that we can help them with, if they are at a sticking point with their life, their circumstances, what have you, that we can help figure out how to help them be successful with those expectations. In terms of prerequisites, we lean into the North Star Digital Literacy Program, and we ask them to pass the computer basics, the internet basics, the email, and the Word certificates before they begin our program. If they're struggling with those, we can absolutely give them more time to restudy and relearn that before they join us. Which takes me to my next slide, which is about how we get started. We offer a monthly onboarding to our program. So we onboard new cohorts of students each month toward the end of the month so that that calendar doesn't roll over. You're like, oops, missed it, right? Because you like to look at things kind of farther down the calendar line there. So I have the dates listed here. There is a flyer here under the click for more information. You can see all of those dates listed. We have a QR code. We have a link where you can go fill out an interest form, get connected with us. But a few things that I wanted to mention while you're kind of looking over this, we consider our program a supported independent study. And this means that our students are largely going to find those 10 hours per week when they want, when they can, when it fits into their schedule. We recognize that adult learners are busy, they have complicated lives, and they are squeezing this in. So that 10 hours per week really is whenever they can do it. They will join us for a 3-hour onboarding. So on Wednesdays, these Wednesday dates are from 1 to 4 p.m. Our students will join us for an in-person synchronous on Zoom 3-hour meeting where I will explain to them how to use all of the resources, how to use the online classroom, get them oriented to all of their tools. And then after that, they have access to those online Zoom channels that we have for our students. They have access to our support, and we expect them to attend that one weekly learning circle where they have access to me and their learning community in real time. But aside from those 2 synchronous events, 1 per week and then 1 3-hour chunk at the beginning, it is entirely at their discretion when they get those 10 hours per week in. And I know I galloped through that because I only have 5 minutes, but do people have any questions for me? Anything I can clarify before I let you move on to talk with Amanda?
Thank you, Susan.
All right, thanks,
We're,
Carly.
we're going to move on and talk about paraprofessional now with Amanda.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you, Susan. Hard to follow you. You're always so good, but I'll do my best here. So yeah, we are teaching, or I am teaching the paraprofessional prep course, sometimes called the paraprofessional training course. And basically there's two sort of goals to the class. We are a test prep and a job training class. And so in order to qualify, we're looking for that sort of medium, high, intermediate level, ABE 3 to 4, both in reading and math. And so that translates to at least a 228 in the CASA's goals, or the sixth grade grade level, or a TABE of 536. So we're looking for that in the reading. And for math, we're looking for the 210 on the CASA's goals, so a fifth grade math level. And then for TABE, it's the 517. So that's the minimum we're looking for, and really it's just to set people up for success considering the sort of difficulty of the test. So that's kind of talking about the NRS. In terms of the class support, so I do offer sort of like an office hour or a one-to-one teacher support throughout the week, as well as year-round access to the highly qualified test account. So that is something that works both for testers and job students who are job training. Kind of tricky to explain because the account, the Paraeducator Online account does do both of those things. It helps with test prep and with job training. And so my sort of goal is to help everybody wherever they're at. Some people come to me and say, you know, I just need the test. I already have a job and I just need to pass that test. Great, we can help you out with the one-to-one. Or you might say, I want to know more about what paraprofessionals do. And so then great, join us for one of our cohorts during the school year. So that's kind of what we mean by whole group and test preparation. In terms of the online delivery platform, we do meet on Zoom. I use Google Classroom. I aspire to getting on Canvas like Susan, and that will happen soon. But for right now, we're using Google Classroom. And then again, that Paraeducator Online is the official account. It's let's see, the company is called the Master Teacher that runs that. And so, yeah, that's how we meet, again, on Zoom, and then we use Google Classroom to stay organized. And then that account Paraeducator Online is really sort of the like backbone to the class. In terms of expectations, again, if you're a tester and you're coming and you're saying, I just need that test to get the highly qualified certificate, then there's just a list of required lesson modules that need to be completed before students can sit down and take that test. All of the training can be done on your own time. You have 1 year from the time you get the account to the time that you know, until the account expires. And so you have 1 year to take the test. You know, some people will say, oh my gosh, I just got this job, I have a week. So sometimes we have people that fly through those lessons really quickly. And sometimes people are on a different time track. So people will go kind of quickly or take their time depending on their needs. And then some people will come for the job training and or the test. So we kind of get a mix of both things. And with the job training, we do lean on the Paraeducator account again for some of that training, but I also have a lot of other materials. So we cover things like, you know, what is special education and what about the roles and responsibilities of paraprofessionals and child development, positive behavior support, so things like that. And then moving along to the schedule. So this year, I'm going to start out with a new thing with an onboarding for the test preppers. So basically, having to explain the account in these one-on-one appointments has become a little bit cumbersome. So we're changing to just once per month. People can come that first Monday of the month. The September 9th is because of Labor Day. But the first Monday of the month, typically from 9 to 11, students can come and I'll explain how the account works, set you up with all the information you need to pass that test. And then I also provide that one-on-one support throughout the week so people can come and say, hey, I'm struggling with this math question, or, you know, remind me about, you know, this or that detail. And so that's kind of what those one-on-one support hours are meant for. And then looking back at the other information on that slide, yes. As far as, let's see, I already mentioned, you get the 1 year for the account. And then we do run the two cohorts per year. So September to, roughly Christmas, and then January through the end of May for the other job training cohort. And thank you. Let's see, Pete is saying these are both great. Oh, awesome. Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm reading the chat. I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing that. But yeah, so that's kind of the long and the short of it. Certainly there's many more things I could add. Any questions that are popping up for people in this moment?
There is a thread of questions in chat about whether or not there's a steps cutoff for scores, CASA steps.
Looks like that's for
Yeah, and I
Susan.
guess with a new test, we all just kind of take a minute to kind of learn how that test is for students and what it means. And so we'll update the spreadsheet to reflect that, but we would be kind of typically looking at the same grade levels. And if you ever have a student who's like slightly below or there's something there, you could always follow up with the contact for the class on that. But yes, that's a new test that we can add the scores to. I'm going to move to the next slide so that we can hear about the next course, which is TEAS Prep. And here's Elizabeth.
Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know what TEAS is, it's the Test of Essential Academic Skills, and it's a test that's used to determine whether or not a learner can move from taking generals in college into a specific nursing program, usually, but some other healthcare programs as well. There's other tests out there. There's HESI, some of the colleges are using, but all of them are very similar. TEAS is testing basic math skills, reading, language, and science. So huge, it covers a huge amount of material. That I did not list any NRS levels. I would say that most of our students are coming in at ABE level 3 or higher. But we're taking students who are either almost in college, taking their generals, or almost in a nursing program. So they're higher level learners, but that does not mean that they don't have significant adult basic education needs. There's an instructor that they meet with live through Zoom, one-on-one every Monday from 5 to 8 p.m. And that time is what we've determined after offering this for a couple of years is the day and time that works best, because a lot of our learners are working full time. We're using Google Classroom still, and the student expectations are similar to what you've heard already. They have to be definitely be able to advocate for themselves and ask for help. But we do expect them to come to class weekly, if possible. If they need to miss, they should let the instructor, Luke, know. We expect them to work independently on Google Classroom. We expect them to reach out to the teacher with any questions and to let the teacher know if what their TEAS score is. We haven't had anyone score below 80 on the TEAS test who has taken the class thus far, which is a really high score. And I just want to answer the question. No, they do not have to have completed their GED or adult diploma in order to be accepted into TEAS Prep. However, they have to have the intention of going into LPN, and they should get in contact with Ability to Benefit program, a ABE program, which would allow those students to actually start college without their GED or adult diploma. And you can contact me directly if you want to know more about that program. So again, the class meets every Monday, 5 to 8 p.m., September 9th through December 16th. There's a significant amount of material to cover, so we do not let students in throughout the course. We sometimes let students come in late, but we don't want students to drop out and then come back. It's really a whole course because there's just such a massive amount of material. So I guess what I thought might be interesting for you all to understand is that what your role would be as a site coordinator. So you should reach out to students who you know about the class if they're planning on going into healthcare. You'll have to, oh, I'm so sorry, my lights just, you'll have to pre-test your students at the site, as everyone said. Enter the student into SID and then send me their SID ID and their information so that I can import them into my SID class as well as non-NRS. So I don't count contact hours, but I do count them in the class so I can keep track of them. So that Elizabeth and the teacher, it's myself, will connect with the student about the next steps as soon as we get that information. And then I will share with you, the coordinator, a spreadsheet for you to track the attendance weekly so that you can follow up with students who aren't showing up. And I'll even make notes if they're coming late consistently or having to leave early, or if I think they might have technical issues. And this is the flyer that we've got. And then if we can go back to that last slide. Number eight is number 8, not 7. Just stay connected for all of these classes. It's really important that you stay connected to the students who you register for any of these classes, because they definitely need additional hands-on support, many of them. And so just stay connected, check in with them, and check in with me to see how they're doing. Now, if Jamie asked, what if they are ABE level 2, but are in pre-nursing college classes? Absolutely, they're welcome. Absolutely, they're welcome. The key is that they plan on going into nursing. They're close to college or in college already. Any other questions? Oh, geez, I'm going to spell my name right and put it into the chat room here.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next up is Paulina and CDL.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paulina Cohen, and I'm the Career Pathways Coordinator at Metro South, but I actually have 2 classes running, so I will be speaking about 2 of them a little bit for a second here. So we will be having the CDL class, which is the commercial driver's license class this fall, but also the personal care assistant. These are the 2 classes that we are running this fall. Both of them will only be running in the fall and not in the spring, so we only have 1. One thing that is common for both of those classes is how the students can register. And there are 2 ways to register for the classes. Number 1 is to get in touch with me. And if you send me an email and give me their, the interested students, first name, last name, date of birth, and their scores, that's the preferred method, because then I know from which consortium they came and who to update about their achievements and their attendance. But the students can also use the flyer and use the QR code on the flyer. Sometimes what happens is we leave the flyers, with in the libraries that we collaborate with, and sometimes the student will register through that. And then what they need to do is to get tested at your site, and you would be still the referring consortium. But both of those ways, in the end, I can be notified that the student wants to enroll in one of those courses. Both of our courses are online, but they are hybrid method, just like the other courses, meaning that there is an online synchronous component through Google Meet, and there is also the asynchronous component through Canvas. That's why we need the students, we need to give them the email, Metro South email, and then they have access to both of those platforms. Carly, could you go back 1 slide? I think there should be 1 more slide. Or no? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so in terms of the level targets for the commercial driver's license, the students have to have the absolute minimum of 204 on goals. We do recommend that it's 210, but we try to go a little lower to give more students chances to try to pass their driver's permit. Our instructor is a former CDL driver's license holder. I think it expired, but he has experience in driving a truck, and he knows how to walk the students through the exam, and also talk a little bit about places when they can get behind the wheel training. In terms of the delivery platform, as I said, it's a 2-hour meeting on Google Meet once a week. We do require that students come regularly. The class is only 11 weeks, so the students can only miss 2 classes, and they are asked to communicate with the instructor if they have to miss. It's because it's just so short. On Canvas, the students can practice weekly. There are also weekly quizzes. And of course, we encourage students to practice when they have time at their own convenience and when they feel like they need additional to review the material from the class, or they also just want to spend extra time reading. Generally, when it comes to the class, Craig helps students go through the manual. The manual is a little difficult to read. The class is appropriate for ESL learners, but also for native-born students. What they often do is they just break down the manual and make sure that the students understand what they're reading, understand the vocabulary, understand the expectations. And he also highlights the things that are the most important, because we figured out a lot of the students are really struggling with this manual. And then in terms of supports, the ideal situation and the referring site supporting the students, so if we can get in touch and just, you know, talk to your site. Sometimes I had teachers from the referring site talking to me, and we both were trying to give the students as much support as possible. So we try to help them with Canvas. Sometimes we have to help them with understanding particular material. This, in my experience, has been the most helpful to all of our students. That being said, Craig is usually available before and after class for office hours, and the students can spend extra time with him to just ask questions. I also am available, make myself available to students if they need help with Canvas or have any other technical or other questions. Carly, could you go to the next slide, please? Okay, and this is something that is really, really important. You have the dates and the times of the class when we are talking about the synchronous classes, but one thing that I feel every student should be aware of before taking this class is that this particular class is really preparation for the driver's permit, Class B driver's permit, and does not include hands-on practice. There's no behind the wheel training. However, we do refer our students, and Craig also coaches the students on all of the places where they can get the free behind the wheel training and sometimes even paid training. And I think the students should really be aware of that, because before the pandemic, those courses were up to $5,000 or even $7,000 if they go and take it at the driving school. So this is really something that our students have been doing. That being said, the students can drive a variety of vehicles with the commercial driver's permit Class B. It's not Class A. We recommend that the students start with the endorsements or permits for school buses, because this has been, in our experience, the easiest way to get behind the wheel training, the free behind the wheel training. We actually have 3 school districts that we work with and refer our students, but across the state, there's just such a need for CDL drivers and bus drivers, school bus drivers, that's what we typically recommend the students do. Okay. So very similar situation with personal care assistant class. This particular class is also conducted through Google Meet. It is meeting twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But there's also a huge part of the course that is delivered through Canvas. Students do not need to purchase a textbook. Our Canvas course is full, and the students use Canvas and the classes to finish the entire course. We recommend the NRS level to be at least 210 on goals. We have tried in the past to provide some life and work, equivalent. We found that those scores are not exactly equivalent, and some of the students who technically had the equivalent of 210 on goals on life and work did not really succeed in the course. So we need to look a little bit into the steps equivalent to be sure that we are setting our students up for success. Again, just like with the CDL, the expectation is the students attend 80% of classes, and then they communicate with the instructor or with me if they need to miss. And just like Craig, our instructor, Morgan Hightower, has office hours for the students to help them. And she is really fantastic, very dynamic, very helpful. Students love her. So that's very, very helpful. Okay, and here is the same way how the students can register, either through the flyer and QR code or the consortium that wants the student, refer the students to us, can just send me an email and provide the information of the interested student. One thing that I would like to mention about the class, Carly, if you could go to the next slide, that would be great. So here's something really, really interesting about the PCA class is we have been marketing that in two ways at Metro South. Number one is for the students who do want to be personal care assistants. But number two, as an introductory course for students who are interested in becoming pre-CNA students or CNA students in the future, but their reading scores are just not quite high enough. So we often will say, listen, your reading score is not quite there to go to the nursing assistant prep course, but why don't you start with the personal care assistant class where you can learn a little bit more about the responsibilities of PCA and some vocabulary. So that's one way how we have been doing that. The class does prepare the students for the official state certification, which is the PCA CFSS state exam. That stands for community supports. I have a name somewhere here. Just give me a second. Community First Services and Supports, but that essentially means PCA. The exam is free and can be taken online. Now, I think what is really interesting is that the new law allows spouses or parents of the children or of the spouses who have a disability to actually get certified as PCA and file as a PCA and get money from the government, which is a huge change that is going to be taking place this October. So I think that this is something that is really worth noting and letting our students know. The other thing that I will say is that for a lot of our healthcare employers that we talk to, if the students want to work at a nursing home or assisted living or senior home facility, a lot of those places really like students to have at least the PCA certification, and that kind of helps the students get their foot in the door. This is, I think, the most important thing about that. And I see that there are some questions.
Yeah, let's answer a couple questions here.
Okay. In terms of bus drivers getting paid for the training, that would depend on the place where they get the training from. The students who get referred to Bloomington Public Schools, which is the majority of our students that we refer to, do get paid for the training, but it really depends on the individual employer. As far as I know, First Student is one of the biggest companies in the state of Minnesota that will do that to those who already have the driver's license, the driver's permit, but they do need to pass this exam for a permit first. And I will say that with this particular CDL Class B, there are also other options. Students can, for example, drive hazardous waste truck. They also can drive city buses, for example, in the metro area, but they do need to get the special endorsements. And this is one of the things that we are trying to help them with.
Thank you, Paulina. If there's more questions, maybe you could take a closer look at the chat and try to respond in the limited time that we have left. There's just so much information to share, but hopefully in the chat, Jason will share this link to a spreadsheet. It's called Online Statewide Spreadsheet. That's the link that's going to have all of the contacts, all of the flyers that were shared, assessment scores, all of that information is in that spreadsheet. At work, I reference that spreadsheet probably 5 times a day, and I send it to just about as many people. So if we can all get used to going to that resource and checking it, then the coordinators don't get as many questions about information that's there. And then I don't think we're going to have time to discuss as a group, but this information can be shared widely with friends and family, with students, with certain classes, with navigators. You never know what student in class has a, partner or a sibling who could be a great fit for one of these classes. So please share it widely. And I do think that it's important that all staff is aware of these, especially if you're working in the front office, doing intake, assessments. If somebody comes in wanting to know about this or to take a test, you don't want to say, oh, no, we don't do that, and you send them away. You want to know what these options are so you can send it to the right person and make those referrals, which is kind of the ultimate goal here with sharing the information. We are just about out of time. So I do want to thank our panelists for being here and sharing information about all of these great programs. And hopefully everyone will follow up with some of those resources and connect with any of the instructors or coordinators if you have any additional questions. It was a lot to get through in the 45 minutes that we had. But thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sharing out all those links too, Jason, and Nick, thank you for being a tech host.
Alrighty, we'll end the recording right now.